At Ninja Theory, we always really pay particular attention to character, not just characters in the game, but also environments, the lighting, everything we try and give character to.
Character's really important because it's the thing that draws you into the game. If you connect with your character, then you're in that place, in that emotion.
Character is ultimately what makes us like or dislike a person. Journey to the West is an ancient Chinese story. It's incredibly popular.
Journey to the West is a story about two characters who not only go on a physical journey to the West, they are going on an emotional journey where they are discovering who they themselves are, and they change and grow over time.
And so when we wanted to adapt it, we took free rein in kind of mashing together lots of different elements of popular culture that we like.
The core idea of the game is really the interplay between Monkey and Trip. So we've got these two characters, Monkey, who's a strong, brutish character, and Trip, who's kind of weak, but she's very tech-savvy. So she is stuck on this slave ship with Monkey, and she manages to escape, as does Monkey. And she decides to use this guy as a tool, a weapon, to help her get through this very dangerous land and get herself home.
Monkey is a wild man, self-sufficient, standalone individual.
It's kind of like Tarzan having a really bad day.
Essentially, he doesn't need anybody.
He's very dismissive of culture and looking after people because he's been hurt by it time and time again.
Trip is the complete opposite to Monkey. She's always lived within a community of peaceful people.
She's the brains of the couple, really.
I mean, if you put yourself in Monkey's shoes, how would you feel if you were minding your own business, suddenly someone made you a slave, and then told you to do something you didn't want to do?
She can choose whether he lives or whether he dies.
How do I know you're coming back?
You die, I die, right?
Yeah.
The performance capture with Andy Serkis is always a really great experience.
Andy co-directed the performance capture, and I think Andy is undoubtedly one of the best character actors we have in the UK. Or anywhere.
He has a very particular way of warming everyone up.
One of Andy's key skills is being able to actually make them relax and understand how it's not that different to a film production.
The first morning when we got together, he said, right, everyone outside into the large area. And we ended up kind of running around for quite a few minutes playing tag, going under people's legs to free us up, and he's sprinting. And
with 20 adults running around trying to do this all at once, it's very hectic, and the energy is just there.
Alex Garland is a novelist and screenplay writer, and he's responsible for The Beach, 28 Days Later, Sunshine.
I want to say the right thing about him, because he's brilliant.
Because we wanted the game to feel like a movie when you're playing it, we thought we've got to find a really great screenwriter. So when Alex came on board, it gave us an opportunity to work with someone who's a master of his craft in an area that we don't actually know a lot about. And so what he brought to the game was this amazing kind of almost directorial eye of how to tell a story. And he worked with us for 2 years on that, and we learned a hell of a lot from him.
At a very high level, Enslaved was inspired by the Chinese story of A Journey to the West. But if we move below that, Enslaved is inspired by Ninja Theory's desire to make beautiful games, to create believable characters in beautiful settings, and give them really exciting situations to deal with. Teamwork is very important in Enslaved. What we didn't want to do is end up with a game that was an escort mission for the entirety of it.
Teamwork is crucial to the game because there are situations that you encounter where perhaps Monkey could traverse it but Trip couldn't, or vice versa. And so you need to work out how to get through the environment without killing Trip, because that'll kill you.
So it's very important that the two characters work together to overcome the obstacles. And each of them brings a unique talent or ability to help solve the problems.
Monkey is able to pick Trip up and literally throw her up to higher levels, where she can then go and access the door or drop something down for Monkey to then climb up.
Monkey is very much a fighter. He's more about just attacking and protecting Trip, which is his main mission. And Trip is there to be protected, but also she's got technical abilities that are way beyond Monkey.
She can identify faults in some of the robots that Monkey encounters, and if Monkey uses that fault, he can, say, rip off one of the arms of the scouts and turn that scout into a walking bomb, which he then throws into a number of other robots and causes massive destruction.
Monkey does the fighting, the clambering, the kind of violent action, and Trip does the reprogramming of technology, doing strategic reconnaissance, and basically together they work as a team.
A lot of the puzzles are not completely obvious. They're kind of like buried within the apocalyptic environment, and through explorations they start to understand what strengths each character has in order to enable them to overcome the puzzles.
It's a puzzle you can believe. You know, it's not some strange thing. I think that's going to make it a lot more memorable, because you're going to actually go, you know, it's almost, you don't realise it's a puzzle until you're halfway through it and you understand, okay, I've now got to do this, and I've got to do this, and it comes together.
So in this world, the war ended about 50 or so years ago. There are mechs still around that will activate it if you trip them.
These are mechs that have been left over from wars long ago, where they pretty much destroyed all of humanity.
And this is analogous to landmines, like in places like Cambodia and so forth. So they're still killing thousands of people, even though the war was over decades ago.
As soon as they detect any kind of human presence, they're going to reactivate and go through their old programming, which is literally to kill.
There's a range of different enemies. I think probably my favourite enemy is the dog. And we say dog, it's not small, it's huge and very frightening, and it's a hunter-killer.
The mechs will begin to learn if you start using the same attack patterns over and over. The mechs will adapt to that. They will start blocking more if you're attacking in a certain way. So you need to explore the different combos that Monkey has. We have to use the environment to maneuver yourself around. It's a tactical gameplay. There's certain types of mechs that have a weakness that Monkey can exploit, and if he's able to manipulate the combat in such a way to take on that mech, he can then actually change the battlefield quite dramatically in an instant.
One or two they can handle fairly comfortably, but as soon as you add in different types of enemies, like combinations of enemies or greater numbers of enemies, the player is really up against the wall here.
One can't actually get through this journey without the other.
We started with the idea that we wanted to set it in the future, but in a beautiful future. We took the idea of magic and turned it into technology, so we grounded it in a reality that we could foresee.
Enslaved's world is a world that, on one hand, is incredibly ugly. It's destroyed, it's full of old relics.
It's kind of post-apocalyptic.
Nature has retaken the planet, so where there was man-made structures, buildings, roads, cities, nature has now overcome.
What would it take for the world to end and become like that? So we did a timeline from now to about 150, 200 years, and marked the different events that would need to happen to get to that point.
You know, it's after the machine wars have happened, it's after swine flu has killed us all, it's after all commerce has collapsed, and people have effectively become irrelevant.
But on the other hand, it's also a place that's incredibly beautiful to look at.
Usually when you see an apocalyptic world, it's grey and brown and desolate.
What we don't like usually is monochromatic games.
People have a tendency to think that if humanity dies, then the world dies with them, and it's totally the opposite that's true. When we're off the face of the earth, nature just reclaims everything, and it's amazing how quickly you see things that we felt were permanent start to dilapidate.
We much prefer to, through colors, show emotion, show colorful environment, epic views.
Larger than life, you know, everything's richer than you imagine. You know, if we're going to add atmospherics or lens flares to the game, or fog, or transmit kind of lighting through leaves and through skin, let's look at how we can actually do that physically correct, and then let's ramp that up, because that's the style we're trying to go for. You know, it's believable, but it's richer and larger than life.
You can see places like where something horrific has happened, like Chernobyl, and where nature has retaken it. It's beautiful in amongst the destruction and desolation, and that was the feeling that we really wanted to capture.
The game starts in New York, and the reason it starts in New York's a universal city. Everyone recognizes it, so when you start there, you're basically saying, this is Earth.
But as they leave New York City and start heading further towards the west, towards their ultimate goal, they pass through vestiges of history. So there is one large area where hundreds of titans, large mechs, taller than buildings, fall together, smashed each other to bits, and created this kind of desolate landscape of oil spills and chemicals all merged together amongst this twisted metal.
When you go through later levels, you know, things start to get even more kind of grander and a bit more fantasy.
It'll at least be remembered when you play it. Like, there'll be imagery, there'll be sounds, there'll be an experience about it that then becomes part of you. That's how you kind of immortalize your games. And that's what we're trying to achieve. Make a game that we would want to watch play, touch, hear, see. That's our objective.
Ninja Theory is a very ambitious company. It's very passionate.
I think what inspires the team is a fundamental desire to create things that are memorable, and that pervades every discipline, art, animation. Like, we strive to be amongst the best in every area.
We strive to make beautiful things, and we're inspired by beauty, and we want to bring that into the worlds that we create.
All these kind of influences from books and TV as well, you know. Anything that really creates a certain ambience.
Fundamentally, everybody in the company loves games, they love films. But there's a bit of a bent towards Eastern films. In particular, we would always have Friday afternoon sessions where the whole team would sit down and watch the latest martial arts movie that's come over from Hong Kong.
So the artists, they're inspired by, you know, great visuals, great color, lighting, movement. The coding team is inspired by helping the other artistic teams achieve what they want to do, but also to set new benchmarks for technology.
As a designer, we want to improve our designs to support all the animations, all the audio, all the art, and everyone just keeps pushing each other higher and higher and higher.
To inspire each other, we're really playing each other's levels that we've created, having a look at what the artists have just been doing lately, walking around and seeing what the animators just create this awesome sequence. Really, it's just about seeing the talent that's on show from everyone else in the studio, and that really inspires everyone else to just push harder and make their stuff as good as everyone else's.
Keep blasting those leeches up there!
Yeah, so a strange thing happened while we were developing Enslaved. A lot of the team members started getting into fitness, into weight training. It became a bit of an obsession, so the whole image of geekdom you get in developers isn't true at Ninja Theory.
Drinking their protein shakes, or I like to call them beefcakes, adding their little bit of powder in.
A few more people going to the gym. At lunchtime it's the gun show, so you know, Monkey's kind of helped us in different ways.
You know, at the start of the game, we have such a good canvas to work on, but we were trying to do something that not many people had seen before.
You can get this kind of balance and mix and variety between action and puzzle solving and strategic elements, and instead of it just being a pure mindless action game, it now becomes cerebral. 10, 15 years ago, the games were a bit more challenging in that way. And I think games have actually got easier and easier and easier. You know, you have to think strategically about the situations you're coming across.
For example, there's a huge crane that you intend to use a bridge to get across the other side to get the trip across this huge ravine. Monkey has to climb up a building, then literally leap across. Of course, it never goes easy, so the crane starts collapsing and he has to climb up this thing as this whole thing is collapsing around him. So we've really tried to create that very dynamic and exciting puzzles rather than something very flat and static.
It's amazing to see areas that are so different, and going through kind of like alleyways or going through buildings and little offices, suddenly they feel more like caves. You know, you're expecting animals to be running out from everywhere, and then, you know, obviously throw the robots into play and some large structures of big mega kind of mechs that were once kind of roaming the land, and you know, you've got a really good kind of combination of things to work with.
I think one of the most dramatic pieces is one of the dogs has been tracking you all through New York, and it's really pretty much caught up with you. It's so close, and you can kind of feel it coming after you, and you and Trip are running for your life, and it's pure panic.
When you put all your scenes and you've built your levels and you put it all together and you've got it working for the first time, that's the beginning of your development, not the end. Traditionally in games, you get everything working, it's all working together, and then it's like, oh, let's stick it in a box. And in movies, it's the opposite. You do the first cut, and then you've got this long, arduous journey of refinement, refinement, refinement. Every aspect, cameras, lighting, sounds, the tone of the story, the pitch of the characters, that continues. And we did that several times over on Enslaved. And that's something I've not really experienced in game development before, and it's quite a painful process, but now it's part of our model. That's how you create cohesive experiences.